Değerli misafirler, kıymetli izleyenler, Saha İstanbul adına hepinizi selamlıyor. Hoş
English participants, welcome to SAR 2026. With the moderation of Sardar Lemdar from the Auto Technopark, he's the General Director of Middle Eastern Technical University and the Technopark, we're going to be talking about the entrepreneurship and SME opportunities and investment in new space economies, dynamics and ecosystem models. So I would like to invite our moderator and panelists. First and foremost, I'm so sorry for this delay. As you know, our president is going to come and the security measures have become more stronger. But we have very valuable panels amongst three doctors, and I have been trying to make my doctorate, but I couldn't finish it, so I'm here just for the moderation. Space economy is something that we are realizing, and it is developing. As you know, the space issue in this polarized world, together with the Russian Federation and at that period of time it was the Soviet Socialist Union, as you know, and the United States were actually competing. They were becoming the two polarized big countries that were dealing with it. But after the fall of the Berlin Wall, of course, that has been not the same as it was in the 60s or the 70s. But in the last period of time, in particular, with the Starship project coming up to the agenda, the startups have become very prominent, and it is realized that they can also do and be an important part of the economy, apart from China, Russia, and Japan, and India, many countries, and Turkey. Most of the countries are taking the space issue seriously, and it is growing each and every day. So there are certain estimations about the largeness of the space investments, but we can talk about trillions of dollars for the next coming decade. So that will be as big as trillions of dollars. And we have also entrepreneurs and also SMEs that are also involving here. Now we are coming to a world that is led by the entrepreneurs, and we have also experiences about this, and for one of them is from the NATO Diana program. The first five beneficiaries of this are Space Renaissance International and Cubatrium. So this is all I would like to say for now. I do not want to take much of your time as a moderator, but we are a very short group. Maybe we can have a tour right now, and then we can continue with questions and answers. So let's start with Dr. Gülay Koçak. What do specialists do? Would you please introduce yourself? Thank you very much, Mr. Sardar, for your kind introduction. And I also would like to thank those who have invited us. I would like to thank the SAHA organization. And we are dwelling upon very important subjects, and I'm very happy about this. So space entrepreneurship and the ecosystem on space, at least for 5 years, I've been very close to it. In Australia, while I was making my PhD, and while working on photovoltaic, I have seen that the area is very much related with space. Actually, I have the heritage of the Middle Eastern Technical University fundamentals, and that's the reason why even I founded my company called Spaceless. And the European Asia Pacific market is very much different, of course, energy and industry and space. But I had the opportunity to see the ecosystem. There is a dependency on China and the trade volume is very high. That's the reason why the fossil fuels are very attractive. Even though I'm working on solar energy, Turkey is much more actually of a more rights market, and that's the reason why I came back to Turkey. Together with TÜBİTAK, I have founded my company. And just after a while, with energy in because I am dealing with technology, in these areas, I have registered to NATO Diana program. It's a very prestigious, a very comprehensive program, and I was in the first cohort. It was very much exciting. It's still ongoing, and the founder and the CEO, as a founder and CEO of Spaceless, we are very happy to opening up a pathway to this. I try to contribute to the area, and I also try to attend to such exhibitions, such fairs, to come together for networking, for contribution. More than that, the Ministry of Defense and the industry is, of course, very much important. If Diana program occurs, it's because of their support, and I'm very happy to be involved in it. And in the second tour, I just want to say for the second tour, you can talk a little bit about the financial challenges that you have faced next time. Mr. Kadir, could you please talk a little bit about Cubitrium? Thank you very much for your kind invitation. And we have the opportunity to meet constantly together in such activities. My name is Kadir Durak. I am an instructor in the Ozian University of Electronic and Electronics department. I'm graduated from the Middle Eastern Technical University, and I started my PhD in Singapore and my postdoc. Later on, I managed my own team and came back to Turkey. For about 10 years, I lived in Singapore. And in 2017, I returned back to Turkey and started to work with my own research team. And just after 3 years, in 2020, I founded Cubitrium. And Cubitrium is my PhD study was as quantum computing systems, actually. But later on, I wanted to make my postdoc on from space to Earth quantum communication areas, and in the quantum perception I also made some articles. Cubitrium is actually the next section of the researches that we have made, and there are some certain tools that we are using, technologies that we are using. We need to actually develop them and then we commercialize them. And apart from this, I can say that I am also involved in the Diana program, and I think there are 4 quantum companies that have been supported that year. One of them was Cubitrium. Diana was very beneficial for us for visibility and reputation, for the credibility indeed. And just because of this, we have received also an investment opportunity, and right now we continue to make turnovers and sales. We are making exports, and in the meantime, we have sent also the satellite. I think we can continue on that after the next tour. When you talk about export, are you making your invoicing from space or what? Okay, anyway, Space Renaissance International, Miss Gülin Dede, is very cool, but you have the Copernic experience as well. Would you please talk a little bit about it, please? I think I have an issue of opening the mic. Right. First and foremost, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today in order to be coming with you. Today I'm coming from abroad with the invitation of the Saha Group, and I would like to thank them. And as we have said, I had an actually experience in the International Space Agency, but then for about 20 years, I've been working in this field, and throughout my time in Turkey, I have been also a key project developer in these areas like image, and I also had the opportunity to participate to the law preparations on space. And on the other hand, I have made, in the period of time I made my PhD, I together with my research and development assistant in the National Defense Ministry, we started working together, and at a period of time, in the 11th transportation meeting on 2013, when the space became to the agenda, all of my studies that I have made as so far became a vision for the space policies for Turkey. And just afterwards, the capacity and the information, in order to increase my knowledge about this, I went abroad. I have a signature on more than 20 satellites, but working under the European Commission is limiting you somehow, but you have to, of course, it's a technical space, it's a technical area, and that's the reason why I needed to develop myself. And by the end of last year, I stopped my work in the European Space Agency. I started working under the United Nations, and I am the manager of an NGO. I am also making partnerships, and together we are coordinating relationships with space on an international level. On an international level, there are more than we have the opportunity to talk about space policies in different types of meetings, which can make contribution to this field. Wonderful. I said I'm not going to take much of your time, but I think I'm going to be talking a little bit more, but I cannot keep my promise. So we have a national space program. We have 10 targets here, and we are astronauts. We're here, I suppose, on Tuesday. We now have astronauts, and we can make different types of experiments. And one of the things that we're doing is the Space Technopark, the foundation of Space Technopark in Ankara as a Middle Eastern Technical University within 600 hectometers. We are now working on making actually a field for space. IES is going to be made in Antalya this year, as you know, and the ecosystems players are going to be here. And today we are going to be talking about launching of our technopark. And I just wanted to say that in the entrepreneurship of ecosystem in Turkey, we have been very successful in 3 areas. One of them is defense technologies, we have a wonderful ecosystem, and Saha Expo is presenting it in a wonderful way, and fintech, financial technologies, and the best banks, the best payment infrastructures are in Turkey, and I can actually really claim it. And I have been living in many different countries for years, but I have never seen any other country that has the best actually infrastructure in fintech as in Turkey. And the game sector, on the other hand, the first unicorn of ours, and right now I suppose we have very wonderful actually game makers, and those who are buying more money from games is London, Istanbul and Ankara. Why Ankara? The reason why Ankara is because we have the Middle Eastern Technical University Technopark, and on the other hand, we have also the opportunity there are experts making simulations. Sometimes they want to also make games and animation games, etc. And they are creating a great amount of revenue, like $1 billion just for Ankara. And we are seeing such a opportunity in space as well. Maybe our fourth field is going to be the space, because this is going to be very cost effective, and it is not any longer under the control of the states, and it's very much important that it is regulated. All of the regulated areas are getting very effective, of course. These three areas are very much regulated, like defense, game and fintech. Now, as a first one is space, and fifth, health, because Turkey is also very strong in health. Within the context of NATO Diana program, they are addressing it, all of them, with defense and security, safety, and other use case startups have become the best advantages that they are getting benefit of. This is actually the picture that we have. Is this the reality in life? Now I'm going to draw the real picture. Mrs. Sardar was talking about uh, different things as well. Now we have a keyword here, resilience. The very key word, and anything that necessitates resilience needs of effort, time, regulation, and the largeness of the ecosystem. So as for funding, and as for the companies having the support, the variety of the companies, and the private sector having an amount of value. So this is going really well in Turkey. And the EIC space conference is going to be held here in Turkey, which is one of the proof of it, actually. And when we talk about the space economy, why I find resilience so important, because in the NATO Diana program, I also work on resilience and solar energy. So, you know, the solar panels are generally on the rooftops of the buildings. We are all using it, but if these rigid structures, when you're sending them to space, that causes a great amount of a cost. So financially, it's really bringing a hardship. 30% of the satellites during their construction, all of the costs are dwelled from the solar panels. So the constellation satellites in the next decade are going to be in space. So innovative satellites and communication and observation satellites are all going to be made with advanced technologies. And Turkey is in a very critical situation now, because we have wonderful scientists and leaders like Ms. Gülin, wonderful engineers and industry leaders. So they all have to come together and have to work upon destructive technologies. Otherwise, we are going to be working on the panels that we already know, and nobody would work on new, novel technologies. And this disruptive technology cannot be achieved. And I find this very important. That's the reason why deep technology for a long period of time should be supported. And that's my own opinion. And Turkey, with the space program and its national strategies, are oriented towards it. The panels of the Expo shows us there are long-term contracts that are ongoing, and the startups are becoming not only 2-3 years of funding, but a decade and even more of a process. So there, in 1 or 2 years, you cannot do something and send it to space. Of course, these necessitate a lot of effort. They have to be tests, and they have to be tested all together. You need to go to the clients, and you need to design them, and you need to really work on it. If we talk about the space economy, many things are combined together, and that 20 or 10 years of plan, how can you do this? And the second keyword is here, predictability. And I feel lucky. I made my PhD in Australia, and the solar energy potential in Australia is very high, as you know. And that's the reason why I was selected as a space developer. Well, space is not very much was not very much equivalent with sustainability, but in the last period of days, we are now talking about sustainable pace. That means the missions have to be more longer, they have to be more resilient, and with it, they have to be supported with the solar energy technologies. And globally, I find that the Turkey situation very good, and within the context of NATO, from Pentagon and from NASA, there are very important people, the authorities that we have uh, seen. They feel very proud of Turkey, and they find every step taken very positive. And there are plenty of things that young people have to do. Disruptive technologies and space technologies and dual-use technologies are very important for their future. They have to be working on these areas, and that's the reason why we are here with you, and we need to pass on the knowledge to the others, because entrepreneurship is not only about finding an idea, but you need to develop it, and you need to introduce yourselves. You need to give that knowledge to others, and that's the reason why I'm working on this matter much more in every field, the space technologies. And if you have a interest in dual space technologies, I would support you. And Middle Eastern Technical University has a wonderful program for this. And by taking place here for newcomers and for youngsters, we need to actually really educate and train that in that field. So we are going to speed up there. It is so that we are lagging behind, but with human resources and belief and with decisiveness, I believe that we can all come over these matters and we go further in that, forward in that. And belief is very much important. We need to believe in what we do. If you have any other questions, I would add them. Yes, when we talk about resilience, it's very much important in entrepreneurship as well. And you are a very resilient entrepreneur, and you never give up. And well, all of the good entrepreneurs incentives and initiatives are stepping up like that, coming up like that. Well, what about quantum, Mr. Kadir? Quantum is not understood by anybody, I suppose. What do your chips really work in space? What do they do? What do you use? Would you please explain it to me just as you are explaining it to my grandmother, my nanny? So, well, what we see, that physics is very much different. You throw a stone, you know what trajectory that stone is going to bring up. You're sending the photon and the atom and energy. When they are okay working together, but the other one is passing through. So it's not really superposition and etc. These are the things that are not really properly working in our daily lives. This is a physics that is going on like that. What does that work? How does that work? Photons are, in photons there is a correlation. In communication, in perception, or in calculation, you can use them. And in different sectors, it can bring up solutions. And quantum technology is bringing up new roadmaps. Mr. Ali Bozbey, maybe you've heard of it. He has a story. They ask IBM for, you're paying so much money for the computers, and for where are you going to use it? We're going to have really great calculators. They cannot foresee that the internet is going to come. But there are some certain things that we still do not know. But what we see that the quantum nets, have different advantages. And these networks, you have to pass through a certain limit. For instance, you want to make a work between Ankara and Istanbul in convolution. How do you do this? They cannot do it here. You have to go to space, because after the atmosphere there's a vacuum area, so you have no area of loss. You can send a photo in there. And that's the reason why space technologies and quantum technologies are merging here. So while you're designing something, so when you're preparing something, you need to think about space as well. And the space technologies is actually totally related with quantum. It's not easy to actually make new innovations. Space grade and military grade are different classification. If it's a military grade, then it's very expensive because you have to pass through immense tests. When similarly to this, space is the same. You have a vibration shock test, for instance, until 8G. Up until 20G, everything is vibrating. I think the maximum capacity in F-35 is 9G. I do not want to say something wrong here. So this is a crazy vibration when we talk about 9G. And in vibration tests, you become a little bit uneasy. You feel uneasy. And if there is a problem, of course, you do not want anything that goes to the space to be space waste. Then you return it back to space, and then you make a thermal test as well. And for instance, this is a world, and the satellite is orbiting, and this is the sun. And 45 minutes until it stays until sun, and on 45 minutes, it's getting cold in space. So what happens when you put something in thermal differences? Well, it fractures, isn't it? So, and on the other hand, there are also some digital devices, microchips, etc. When they are destructed or damaged, then again, the mission shouldn't become a waste. So you need to take care of this, but this isn't enough. You need to do it on the right time. Each company and each project has deadlines, and there is a space deadline. When the rocket is launching, you cannot wait for 2 or 3. You cannot postpone it. It's a deadline. It's a real deadline. Well, of course, the rockets can be postponed for 2 or 3 months, but you cannot do it. So you are working with really restricted schedules. And we say to the investment, we are going to send a satellite in 1 year, let's say. You have to actually persuade it, and the CEO has to persuade it, the investor. And the investor has to have a vision, of course. And this was our situation. We are going to launch a satellite, and we are going to send the quantum involved satellite. And we talked about on how we are going to do it. We did it somehow, of course, within a year, and we sent that product to space. And we received a very healthy data. And that has become we have made an entanglement activity here, and we receive data. So what does that mean? In space, in Earth, there are nets of nets. I mean, in order to create that internet, that was an important step. The payload should be miniaturized, minimized. The more minimized it is, let me give you an example how small it is. Now, China is our competitor here. They are making a state research. It was $1 billion of a project, and they have sent in 607 kilogram weight of a satellite. So we just made 1 kilo less. Why did we do it? Because when you want to sell a product, it has to be sustainable. In order to create a network, you need to send hundreds of satellites. You know, Starlink, maybe these satellites are more than 100. And then without sending it, you cannot create a quantum network. And there's no money for that. And in reality, there's real restrictions, and you have to abide by this. That's why we need to minimize things, and we have launched it. And right now, we have started the export. Now, for approximately, there is a 10 billion euros of a pipeline, and the next investment tour had to be taken earlier, because we can do only make a satellite only once a month. But how can we do it? Because there are a lot of demand. We need to have more people, of course, in space technologies, in quantum technologies. The revenue, you can make a revenue out of it, but of course you need to persuade it. So you have to persuade the people that your technology is superior. And space products, the most important criteria here is trustworthiness. So when you're buying something from Aselsan, I suppose nobody has any kind of a concern because it's Aselsan. And they have most probably made something too. But Qubit Room is not like that. Qubit Room has done something. But how does it work? So it's already quantum. We do not know, understand whether it's working or not. And right, but this is just a joke, of course. Anyway, we have to show it, and as a company, we have come up to the conclusion that if we want to sell something, it can be an engineering service or a spare part of a satellite or a module for communication. We first make the demo. So they have to see that trust first, and later on, the part of the discount. Well, we are not dealing with this. In the startup, this is not working with us. We need to create trust first and foremost. And the only way to do it is to show and present it and to stand behind what you do. That's what we try to do. And now we have a really good ecosystem, and we create a good name for that. And I'm going to say this phrase for the first time in my life, but I hope until up to 2028, I hope that we can be one of the unicorn as well as a quantum company. Uh, it can be 2027 too, I guess, isn't it, as far as I can understand from your words? Yes. Thank you. So I applaud it because we, as an Invest 101, we are an investment of Qubit Room. So the Invest 101 has a fund of 22.5 billion euros of funds. So we have 5 companies in our portfolio. But let me tell you that this is a Qubit Room investment was the one that we really enjoyed so much because they are doing it. It's not easy to persuade really smart people, and in the investment committee, of course, we had to be persuaded. And I believe in passion, and I believe about the claim that is brought up. So the people, the investors, in order to be perceived, they had to pay a lot of time for this. But now we have also a condition. Very risky because I want to make an actually investment here. CC Tech has also entered here, and CC Tech is an actually association like Aselsan. So we have made actually an investment here, and hopefully when we can become a unicorn, we are going to create a lot of revenue. Now we have a new fund. This is the 17th anniversary of the foundation, establishment and foundation of the Middle Eastern Technical University. So we have 4 investment decisions, but it's not yet completed. But maybe the Qubit Rooms continuous and spaceless investment continuous investments can be considered as well. So the Middle Eastern Technical University founder, we give priority to you as well. By the way, I would like to congratulate you. We have seen wonderful details, we have seen the funds, and we also have seen everything. And I wish that we can become more successful. So we shouldn't give up, and we should precisely work, and we need to persuade them. That's the reason why I would like to congratulate you. Thank you. And I told you before that the investor has to have a vision. They have to believe in it, and they should understand it. And one of our investors is at Middle Eastern Technical University, Technokent. And it's not easy to proceed. And we are going to launch a satellite. We are going to make it less, we are going to have a more better composition of everything. So it's not easy, but today it's working. And let me just actually share this with you as well. So we are following 2027. Ms. Gulin, I do believe in collaboration in every area. Startup is very open to collaboration, as you all know. As the Turkish people, we are good at many things, but there's a weak point here. Our diaspora is not very much collaborated with the Turkish people abroad. Are you in Bonn? Yes, I'm in Bonn, but I work in Brussels quite a lot. So in very critical area, we have very valuable friends, we have very valuable citizens living there, and it's a really serious commitment, by the way. And on the other hand, in the investment of space, what type of things would you suggest to do? What should the entrepreneurs can be promoted? So maybe Mr. Kadi can bring a quantum finger here. I think there's an entanglement here. Anyway, yes, that was actually a wonderful field that you were talking about. The company owners, the Turkish people, and the policymakers living in abroad. Well, maybe we feel a little bit about this type of a loneliness. Yes, I have passed through this feeling of lonesomeness. And however, whenever Turkey starts to make an outgoing and abroad in those tables, in those environments, they have the opportunity to meet the Turkish scientists. And let me just give you the story of mine. In the IEF organization, as you have mentioned, IEC 2026 and IEF International Astronomical Federation are the real organizers of this. And for a long period of time, as I was living in abroad, I was actively working in their organization, and I'm a member in their 4 committees. There are spring meetings, and we come up together in Paris, and we are making our missions. When you come from Turkey, we had the opportunity to see that, and I think there is no diaspora here, I guess. Well, I think we can actually develop that channel, I believe. But let me tell you, at the same time, an immediate development and an incentive can be done. There is a real will to start, but they have to be reflected over there as well. The more in areas you have been in, the more partnerships you can create, especially startups. And let's talk about these. Let's say that these are interesting technologies. We should actually bring things one step further, like Ms. Güler's company or Mr. Kadir's companies. They are making great innovative developments, and we need a policy for this. And these policies are produced on the United Nations level. We were talking about sustainability, and Ms. Güler was also mentioning about sustainability as well. And the United Nations has a Space 2030 agenda, and there are the culture. There are pillars of them: culture and society, accessibility to space, and the other one is technologies. Now, in these new sustainable technologies, we see that there is a need, there's a roadmap of needs. If these can be supported by policymakers, and if it can be converted as an investment, then I suppose the people who are interested in this can be supported by opening companies like this, and I believe that there will be great feedbacks about this. And let me talk a little bit about the European Space Agency. They have organized this matter. In 20 countries, they have more than 37 business incubation centers. And if you have an idea of making an investment there, of entrepreneurship there, they are giving you capital here. Even if you do it or not, you can actually make the feasibility and you can bring it back to them. So without any kind of a risk, you can actually give, when you start with a mentorship, of course, that can create great advantage and can create a great speed in the processes. There are more than 2,000 startups that are supported in Europe as well right now. Now we have, I think we have time for questions and answers for about 8 or 10 minutes. So we can get 3 questions at most. I'm going to get 3 questions from you. Mr. Ramazan, don't you have any questions? Let me ask you, is there a possibility to have an actually space force as well in Turkey? We have it right now. The commander of space must be right now in Toulouse, and because he is right now attending to a NATO event. So that's also a great opening, and that's the reason why I wanted to learn about it. Yeah. So, please do have the floor. I'm also following NATO Diana as well, and I'm very happy to see that Turkish companies are getting support from this program as well. And why don't we have companies from Istanbul here? Maybe you can give some information about it. So, we are one of the initiative of Middle Eastern Technical University Technocant entrepreneurs, but we are localized in Istanbul, and we have also an investment. 20% of the companies have to be also invested that are in Istanbul. That's also a code. And NATO, science and technology, and is one technical watch here. Do you also follow it from here? And in technology concepts, innovation, and quantum is also another area that has been talked. Apart from entrepreneurship in the technical part, do you also contribute to certain studies? Well, let me just answer your question as I understand. So it's not something like I got the Diana and I go forward like with it. But I'm also an academician. We have focus groups as well. There's IST groups that I'm a president there. You have to be there. And in the NATO international continuity, we have made their demos. I cannot hear, I'm sorry, without a microphone. And we have made demos here, and the NATO CRM, we have sold them products, and we are making studies. They are making the study, actually, and they are using our technologies. And the Netherlands and the Turkish defense and Air Forces, Turkish Air Forces, are very close by with us. So the NATO has an establishment like this. The most wonderful thing of being there is that wherever the technology is going, you should sell it. No, it's not the case. But now there are you should be also somebody who should orient this area. We try to be this. There's a NATO summer school as well. It's a quantum summer school. Qubit room is going to be made. It's applicable studies and trainings. Maybe Ms. Gülin can make a comment about this, because quantum security in the European Union was apart from Turkey, was apart from the European Union horizon. In 2023 and 2024, I guess there was actually a kind of an area like this, and maybe there's something that you can talk a little bit about quantum as well. I know that you know space, but as for quantum, what can you say? Well, actually, on an international level, the entrepreneurship is going to be very good, beneficial for Turkey as well. With the Europe is becoming a little bit more limited within itself and is staying away from NATO. This is strategic, but Strategically, what is right, you have to be in two parts. How can we convert it into Turkey? If we do the right incentives, if you can make the right inputs into the right projects, and throughout the regulation process in Europe, there are plenty of things that we can follow. For instance, the EU Space Act is right now under development. And apart from EU, the third country parties, Turkey can become an example and how they can enter to these projects. We should think about them, how they can be involved. Right now, safe satellite communications are right now being developed in Europe, and they are going to develop 290 satellites, and Turkey is out of it. Interoperability developments should be made, I believe, with our defense ministry and our space program. If we can make such policies, then I believe that companies can be open to quantum and can open to energy, and it will be very fruitful. I'm sorry, I cannot hear the question without a microphone. Okay. I'm not very, I don't really know very well the space. You did the device yourself, did you? Yes. But then you are having support to launch the satellite, isn't it? Turksat is making the devices, but how is it been made? How does the process continue as a general idea? So if we want to send a tennis ball, what's the cost of it to locate it in the orbit? We have, this is the Falcon 9, Transport 16, and right now, if you, for small companies like us, it's not very easy to do it. You need to have a mediator company. We have got a contract with an Italian company. It was a local one, but the configuration had to change later on. And that company was helping for the communication and for ground control. But it was made in SpaceX, and we have given it 20 million euros of an amount in order that we can actually launch the satellite. It's much actually cheaper, but because we have a mediator in between, the amount is changing. But if it's your rocket, your own rocket, then it's much more cheaper. So $20,000 per kilogram of launching is what they say. But if you want it as a company on your own, then it's a little bit more expensive. So my own experience, this is my own experience. So the numbers are more or less this much. It depends to the dimensions of the satellite, of course. The dimension of the satellite is also very much important. There was something else that you said as well. The operational, there's no operational cost. You're not renting anywhere. So the European Space Agency wants you to locate it for 5 years, and then it's falling down. And if it's passing through the ground control, you get into communication with the satellite and you receive the data. You don't have to stay settled. So now we have a ground station. You can buy a ground station. You can do it with the satellite yourself. But of course, the mediator in between has to give it. If it's your own satellite, then there is no problem. And when it's in a quantum internet service, then it's a very important commercial issue. In somewhere you have the ground station, an optic ground station, for instance, where radio frequency with radio frequency can get into communication with the satellite. So the same satellite can actually get into communication in different geographies. So that is important. This is an important issue. Is there anything you would like to add, Ms. Gulin? Yeah, well, Space Renaissance International, the headquarters is the D-orbit as well. And I wanted to also say it. The ecosystem architecture is very much important. And if you can actually create that architecture in a proper manner, then game players will find them and get into touch with them. And having networks can be created with different policies. For instance, the 18th sustainability policy goal is an agenda. There are 120 organizations. They have created a signatory coalition with 120 companies. So some policies have to be made, and they have to be presented in different events, and you can create collaboration and networks, and you can also design them from scratch. And of course, all of these projects can create a basis for an economical contribution. And I just wanted to say the support of ESA, actually, our branch in the Netherlands, it was opened with it. As we have an incubation center here. Of course, we have to see everything as a whole. There are different type of opportunities. I do not know whether the world is small or not, but if for this ecosystem you have to get in touch with everything and everyone. You shouldn't be in very parallel with everybody. For the startups, that can be very precious. And I also would like to add something here for the follow-up of them. Actually, day and night, you think about this. The first thing that you check out, what are the developments, with whom can we talk, what are the investment channels. So the space platform and an investment platform where Turkish companies can also be involved is going to be very, very important. Maybe, Mr. Sardar, you can take it under your umbrella and you can start this up. So what type of components can we test or develop? With which investors can we come together and talk about our common passions? And we need to come together, and there is a necessity to have such a platform so that all of us can follow everything, because even in one day in the space economy and ecosystem, everything can change. I think this would be wonderful. Absolutely. And let me just make a contribution. You were talking about the tennis ball. We, as a Middle Eastern Technical University, we are a state university. We are the most poorest organization as a state university, of course. But within the Asia Agency program in 2029, in the South Arctic of the world, we are sending sending 2 rovers. It's called Cherry. We have the prototypes of this, and we are going to be the first country that is going to send it to the moon. And with the state budget, within the context of this program, our rovers are going to be landed on the moon. So this is a project that we are getting, and the launching of this is $50 million, and we can get it for free when you're doing these rovers. So you are going to send a device to the moon. Maybe you can be talking about the stations as well, because there's a necessity of the development of these stations, so that the space entrepreneurs, the research institutions, we can all test them before sending them to space. In order to do it in the same Mars areas, we can have actually analog stations. This is also, in the next panel we can talk about this. There was a question here. By the way, I also would like to thank everybody for their participation. I just want to ask a very simple and plain question. The space is deep and wide, vast, and there are a lot of opportunities there as well. Now, it can happen today and tomorrow, next year as well, but you might say that there are great opportunities like space quantum, or there are transfers, and they're saying that in that space some products can go from one area to another. So what would you like to say about this? And even though there are a lot of opportunities, this is my own opinion, space and technologies investments are, I believe, is not very sufficient. Let's say that I have an idea. I want to be a space entrepreneur. It can be Turkey or the world. From where do we have to start? With zero budget, how can I create? Maybe you might have a roadmap for that. I can get that question for you. The Turkish Space Institution University. I am giving an online remote lesson there. It's called Space Entrepreneurship. I give that lesson in English. And because the terminology is very much important, as we know. So this is one version, and there's also another version. There are some pinpoint technologies, of course, that are ongoing. For instance, the European Union project has a Moonlight project. It's called Lunar PNT, Position Navigation Timing. And taking a look to the IT side, I'm talking about Europe and international, on an international field. The reason why is exactly this, because these technologies game is right now made. It's a system architecture. ITU in Geneva had meetings, and I went there and I understood that the radio conference and conference, it was about 80% of the event was about the space communication spectrum. I listened to this. You can check it out. Space Sustainability Forum was the event's name, I suppose. You can check it out, take a look to the documentations. There are wonderful roadmaps. You can see which technologies you can work on. And you should start for your registry. You can work in 7 years of project delivery time. And this way, you can make your registration. You can check out what you can do for 7 years. You can check out all these people that you see here on the panel. And you can actually register similar funds. You can make your feasibility studies. If you can make a project for that, believe me, that would be wonderful. You will have a great advantage for yourself and for bringing them to our country. Is there anything else that you would like to say? So, actually, you already started by coming here because you're interested in this. If you have ideas, you get encouragement from us. I've been talking about space in an event. The students are a little bit shy on telling their ideas. I gave a detailed of an information. I have talked there for about 10 minutes, and 2 years later, I received an acceptance in the ISC program, and she thanked me very much. And now they want to actually make a company. We need to come up together with the students, new graduates. There can be students that come as an apprentice, or we need to share our experience with a little. They are going to actually make their presentation, and then they are going to open up their company. I felt great about this. And let me add you something. With the space debris, the first PhD that I couldn't complete it was in Zurich. And it was a thesis of a friend of mine, how we can actually overcome the space debris. And he wrote a good thesis. I think there was a 10,000 franc that he received for Best Paper award. It was the year 2000, but they put a prerequisition saying that you need to work on it. Now this company has become a company in clear space. So there is no investment in anywhere, not only in space. As an investment, let me tell you, we are checking out 4,000 works, only 10 of them can receive an investment. For the rest, 3,990, there is no investment, there is no money. But you can only invest to 10. This is a filtering process. We give the opportunity to the best of the bestest. That's what we should do. Actually, space is an area which is where money is very big. You used to write a white paper, and you can actually bring us an idea, but you can actually create a networking and you can go for investors. I do not know the volume of the investors. There might be statistics of this, but vision is very much important, and the investors should be reasonable as well. There are so in this ecosystem, everything goes a little bit more with whispers. In Germany, there was a company that wanted to enter, and it was a very known investor, and they said that their payments, the payments start only 9 months later, and they constantly want documentation, but that doesn't work like that. There's a lot of bureaucratic things, and there are such issues as well. So the investor, you should also check the investor. A reasonable investor is very much important. There are also investors in Turkey. We can talk about this. So actually, it looks like there's a lot of employment need. The supply and demand is changing. Everything has an inflation. So you have to check the areas where investment is taken much. Is it good or not? If there's a lot of investment, then that means there's a great competition. I'm not really sure about this. So you have to make an actually persuasion for the investment. You need to continue with the right investors. That's what I would like to say. Okay. And investors should also support each other. This is also one area that I have hard time, because not only one investor is insufficient. There's a lead investor. I'm dealing with space and energy, and I need people having the same idea. A global VC partnership should become done in space area. In Turkey, of course, there's a great amount of investments network, but space is very new. Maybe with collaborations, with international collaborations, we can achieve it. Hopefully. Okay, thank you. We are working on it. Hello, I have a question to Mr. Kadir. There are ciphering, symmetric and asymmetric ciphering. Giving the same ciphers to both areas. In the application, asymmetric ciphering is preferred. In the quantum key distribution is creating cryptos. So both sides they are actually creating ciphers. From space and from us, when the symmetric ciphering has been made, the communication is going through the same channels. So when in normal channels they are intervened, these ciphers are not going to work. Is there anything that you would like to say about this? Or the keys that are produced, can they be used in data processing and sending? So quantum cryptography, well, these are, quantum is just making the key distribution, the other one is cryptography. And the attack ones they are actually intervening the hub. For example, the satellite, when you put a jammer in the radio frequency, you cannot make a communication. So then you have to pass to areas where there is no jammer, and NATO is working on this. And besides, the European Defence Fund are also working on this. RF mitigation is very much important. They are going to leave everything about radio frequency aside. They are going to start working on different types of technologies, and quantum is creating this. Because in optic, you're sending the photons in optic visible waves. And there, you're creating. So anyway, this is a great amount of, there are actually very physical issues. These physics issues are still ongoing to be worked. But we are sending the optic photons to the world, by the way. If you put a mirror over there, it is going to cut it. Space-based solar is also important. This is also one technology that can actually come over the problems. It is developing in Turkey. And space-based solar, everything is made in a more safe way. So the intelligence in the intelligence area, maybe the next 10 years, such concerns are going to be solved, I believe, in a broad manner. And I believe that we can come to this. Of course, I can come to details if you want to. Wonderful questions. Yes, but hi. We can have two more questions. Ömer Burak İskender, Final Proximity Space Systems. In space, it's very difficult to make communication. What type of financial measures do you take? Approximately 80% of them there are out of cash, and that's the reason why they need to shut down their startups. And would you please tell us about what you do? Not only in space, but it's also not very easy to earn money in the world as well. Of course, we have startup founders here, and I am, as an NGO manager, earning money, yes. Do you want to realize space projects, or do you want to earn money? So under my NGO, throughout all of these space congresses, there is a very fantastic one, from Lagrange 5, the simulated gravity rotating space habitat is going to be established. This is my project. And I'm meeting with a philanthropist, with an investor right now. So the aim here is to do, to earn it, or to create employment, or to go to space? I asked us how to you can become profitable. So we want to make engineering and we want to make new explorations as well. But after the first client, in order to become a break-even point,
Sonuçta sonuna kadar yatırımcı parasıyla veya bazı desteklerle gitmek imkansız. Buyurun hocam.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Ladies first and şöyle ben çok erken aşama başladım.
so I still continue difficulties here. Yes, we have been talking about trustworthiness. In disruptive technologies, trustworthiness is not only about how much money you have. And with the team, your technology, and your market, and your clients, they all is a commercial potential, and there are also returns from this. So as an entrepreneur, I try to explain everything. You cannot do it all by yourself, so cannot be done on your own. On the finances area, yes, for the revenue, you can actually find different areas for the finances. But earning from this as much as this, as much as that, your focus is lost. So that's the reason why I try to solve very big problems, very big challenges. That's why I need to be resilient. Without really, I try to bring all of the investors together, especially in Turkey. There are a lot of wonderful processes that are ongoing. And there is also another issue here. You are exposing to yourself to difficulties. You need to go out of that comfort zone. I'm very bad, behaving very bad to myself. You need to come over the people who are passing through. So what are the things that you can stay away? You need to be away from the negative people, and you need to also find ways to be with good company. In the last 7, 8 months, I feel I expose myself to actually hardships. I learned, but through that process, they sometimes can be very traumatic for entrepreneurs. But later on, you get more rigid. You become more resilient. So you're exposing yourselves in very difficult times. Not everything is finances. And you should present everything in total. Persuasion is also very much important. We have to do it all together, and that's the reason why we need to be working very hard. Saha is the largest activities of this, and I'm very happy about this. In 2027, 28, 29, I hope will be an area where unicorns are becoming more, and we can find many, many solutions for space. Thank you very much. And okay, you can say just a few words and then we can close. In order to find the money, you can go to an investor, of course. And we have also COSGAP and TÜBİTAK supports. These are wonderful. In Europe, it's not that easy. I know these two parts. And the research fund is something else. But you start with a company. We can get them all together. But a startup should use all of it. And in Europe, they ask, and so far, how did you actually really resist? And I say that it's very much easier to actually resist in Turkey. Uh, but uh, but on the other hand, you can get investments, but these are actually arbitrary money. Startup has to find money so they can work, but not much. If it's not much, because if it's too much, then it's not a startup. You need to have a concern as well. How much under guarantee you can take it? A startup shouldn't have a guarantee, and no employer has to have actually such a guarantee. It seems like a wild capitalism, but this is the case. And you this is the way it has to be. If you give $1 billion to Cubitrium, then why would we build a satellite for once a year? We need to find money, but we shouldn't be that relaxed. That's why we need to sell things. That's the best thing. So the projects are very limited because we have surpassed the project space right now. We have to sell things, and it depends from which phase you are. You can get an investment. There are wonderful investors indeed. You can get projects because you are actually meeting the needs of the staff. Do you have? You need to stay a little bit hungry. This is what a startup has to do. But not that much, of course. The superpower of startup is because that they are constantly in need. The corporate companies are not that agile. Why? Because it works somehow. In the next 5 years, nothing will happen. And in Cubitrium, whatever we do never know what is going to happen next year. You always have to have a little bit of a concern, but that's in a balance. And you have to put some small targets. And you cannot actually make us be a startup and then become a unicorn. No, that's not possible. You have to build up, you have to make your export, you have to make your sales, etc. Everything has to go with baby steps. But there is no, this is not a magical wand. So this is the case actually. You have to really run. You have to run after clients. You have to find work. As a Cubitrium, my first work was an export of $150,000. And then I have actually made it here. So even if you do just one job, if you do one sales, that is going to be very important for the company. So that was a golden shot. Wonderful. And every entrepreneurship meeting, we have to actually listen to this inside. Every panelist has contributed a lot. The questions were wonderful. Thank you very much for your time. So this is for today. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sardar, for this wonderful panel and the panelists. Thank you very much for that. Before closing our panel, we urge from our moderator, Mr. Sardar, to give a token of remembrance to all of our panelists, and then we'll have a family photo.
Bu da siz ne diyiniz?